Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Ash here. Welcome to Scent Trails. If it's your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you like fragrances, you won't be disappointed. Today we are not discussing the top 5 rose fragrances of all time. That just doesn't make sense. You probably, hopefully already know that fragrance is subjective, so what I like, you might not like, and vice versa. Alright? But we are talking about my top 5 rose fragrances, at least at the current moment. I do have 4 honorable mentions. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, so without further ado, here are my honorable mentions, alright? These ones are all samples, so I guess that's why they're honorable mentions. Besides that, there are other reasons. This one here is my first one. It's Isparta by Pierre Guillaume. This fragrance I will definitely be buying soon. I just think it's amazing. It's a refined masculine rose scent. Some people make comparisons of this one to Portrait of a Lady by Frédéric Malle. I cannot speak for that fragrance very much because I have not tried it. The next one is this one right here. This is Siren by House of Matriarch. And this is a fragrance that unfortunately is discontinued. You cannot find it anymore, guaranteed. Alright, so don't even try. It would definitely be on this list if it was still available, and I would buy this. Dark, spicy rose fragrance. The development is insane on House of Matriarch fragrances. I mean, it starts in one area and ends up somewhere kind of similar, but like developed amazingly, alright? If they bring this back, keep your eye out for it. Siren by House of Matriarch. The next one I'm talking about today is going to be this guy right here. This is Smolder Rose by January Scent Project. And I'm upset that I don't have this one in my collection yet. It will be added to my collection, guaranteed, if I can get it before it's gone forever. I believe there's still a few of these left. So I do want to say that this is a spicy, sweet, smoky rose fragrance. Definitely not going to be for everyone. It's a rose fragrance that is rather artistic. You know what, I can't even do it justice. I'm not even going to try to go there right now. The last honorable mention is going to be Maison Francis Kurkdjian. This is Oud. Alright. This one I really wanted to put on the list, but I feel like it's just a little bit more dominant in the oud than the rose, but the rose is also very prominent. It's a very simple, structured fragrance. It's very exotic and also smooth, so it's going to be different than what you're used to wearing. It's very much an oud fragrance, but the oud in here is very smooth and unique. It's a great entry-level oud, but it's not going to be like your step 1. This might be step 2 or 3. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so without further ado, let's bring you to my top 5, and this one will be definitely the most mass appealing fragrance on this list. It's something I feel like cannot go wrong with in probably about 90% of situations. This is a very unisex fragrance, even though it's marketed towards men. So I would say it's only slightly masculine, but this fragrance just is incredible. Let me tell you why. I'm talking another MFK here. This is called Lumiere Noir. This is a fragrance that literally will make you say yes. It's very, very, very approachable. I'm just going to be straightforward and tell you this, that this is the most elegant fragrance in my collection, hands down. And I've tried about 2,000 different fragrances roughly and counting. When I say that, I mean that this is something that you can easily pull off at work, casual, party, interview. You cannot go wrong with this. A date fragrance, this is amazing. Great for warm weather. You probably want to be careful on the trigger if it's boiling hot out and you're going to be in like close quarters with other people. This one always gets me really nice compliments, to be honest, and it's a fragrance that when you first smell it, you may not think that there's rose in here, but just because you read it in the title of this video and I'm doing rose fragrances, If someone mentions the word rose to you when you smell this, you will definitely be able to pick up the rose. But it's done in such a smooth way that, you know, it does not seem very rosy. Until you make that connection that this is a rose-based fragrance, you'll realize it. This is amazing. This is a smooth, spicy rose fragrance. It's clean. It's also only slightly masculine in my opinion. So, and I mean that slightly. Like there's a femme version which I have not tried, and this one is very easily wearable by men and women. All right, younger, older, doesn't matter. This one's gonna make a very positive first impression, or just any impression. All right, so now we're getting into more of the darker, dirtier stuff here. And this next fragrance is definitely dark. It's got a hint of dirtiness, but it's also very classy, all right? So this is a fragrance that is well known in the community. You may have heard about this, and if you have not, you need to try this. All right, this is Tom Ford's Noir de Noir. You are getting a slightly spicy, chocolatey rose fragrance that is a little bit sweet. It's not overly sweet. It's very elegant, but again, it's also sexy. Something about this fragrance just has that combination of class and appeal. When I first smelled this fragrance, I really was not feeling it, to be honest. And I just kept hearing more and more people talking about it, so I revisited the sample a couple times. I think on like the third time I was like, whoa, okay, I get it. I need this. Got it. So glad I did. It's also got a little bit of oud in here, but it's very subtle. It just adds a little bit to the dark character of this fragrance, and you know, it gives it some more backbone. The weird thing about this fragrance is a lot of people will say that it's more feminine, and others will say it's more masculine. I personally think it's a little bit of both of those. And so it's very unisex, but it's not super androgynous. This is more of a fragrance with both masculine and feminine touches, all right? And if that doesn't make sense, you really have to smell it and understand the difference. Compare this to something like Tabac Rouge by Sedan. I'll try to spell that somewhere out here for you. That fragrance is much more androgynous and unisex, in my opinion. But this one, though, you have to try this. It's number 4 for a reason, and it is quite appealing. I've had a lot of compliments with that fragrance almost every time I wear it, and also the projection on it is very powerful. Now we're talking about a fragrance to me that is just as sexy, but more exotic, much more exotic than the previous. Hence why why it's number 3 on my list. This is from Tower Perfumes. You may know about this. It's called Rose de Kandahar. Phi, P-H-I. I'm gonna call it pi because that looks like a pi symbol to me. Now, this one. Honestly, I cannot really do this fragrance justice, but what I'm going to tell you is that this is a very classy, sophisticated, elegant, and sexy fragrance. It's a bit wild, but it's also very respectable. It's loud, but smooth. So what you're getting here is a spicy, earthy, almondy rose. It's a bit sweet. The rose is different than any other rose you've smelled before. It's picked from a specific region in Afghanistan. I believe it's called Nangarhar. Again, a fragrance that starts off a bit rough and smooths out as it sits on your skin. Definitely not going to be for everyone. The funny thing about this is it does lean a bit more masculine, but yet the rose to me, I get more of like a pink rose, if that makes sense. It doesn't remind me of like a red rose. It's just different than a lot of other rose fragrances you've smelled. You may not even really pick up the rose if you didn't know that the rose was in the name of this fragrance. I would say that, you know, blindfold yourself and have someone spray this for you without telling you what it is, and just see if you can even pick it up on your own. I mean, without knowing there's rose in there. But a fragrance I don't wear too often. Don't get me wrong, I love this fragrance. There's a reason why it's number 3. I just don't wear it so often. For me, it's more of a special occasion type of fragrance because it's very, very unique and it's very powerful too. Now these next 2 are my bad boys right here. What's really interesting about this next fragrance is the way that it develops, at least to me. When I first sprayed it, it's of course rosy. It's very, very rosy and very spicy and earthy and woody and a bit dirty. It's just got a lot going on. It's very compelling, especially when you first spray it. It's like, whoa, I don't know if I can handle this. That was my first impression. But something about it was like, you know, I can see how this would have an appeal to me when I very, very first tried this. After a while, I came back to it. I heard about it again. It was one of those, you know, where I revisited it and just fell in love with it. This is to me the best rose fragrance in the world, all right? Now I'm saying that with a grain of salt. Please take that with a grain of salt. So I say that because this is a fragrance with about 6 to 8 different natural rose essences in this fragrance. It's very rose dominant. It does have some woods, some spice, a little bit of oud, and a few other ingredients. Guys, I really cannot do this justice. I'm just going to show it to you, alright? This is from House of Matriarch, and it's called Kazemi. Now, when I say that this starts off dirty, it does not stay that way. It's really, this is a very refined and sexy fragrance. Man, it's a bit strange right in the beginning, but my goodness, something is a bit familiar too in the opening. It's very exotic. And the way it settles, you know, is that it tones down quite a bit. It does actually get cleaner and just more elegant as it sits. But it's really difficult to do this fragrance justice because of the way that it develops. It starts off really bold, but ends up really smooth and subtle too. If you're trying this out, I would say take a really deep breath, spray a bunch of sprays of this, and go outside for a while. See if you don't die, all right? Because if you don't, you're going to be really delighted at the way that this fragrance develops. Now, I'm saying that again with a grain of salt, guys. Don't actually do that if you're really sensitive to fragrance, because you really might, suffocate yourself. The oud is very subtle. It does stay rose dominant throughout the life of the fragrance, but it just cleans up so amazingly well. Although it does lean a bit masculine, especially in the opening, I find that it does become much more unisex as it dries down. It's not overly masculine to my nose. Yes, it does start off that way because of how strong, spicy, earthy it is, and a little dirty. But it's not a very naughty fragrance. I mean, it kind of starts off that way. You're talking within 20-30 minutes or so, up to an hour, this fragrance is going to smooth out considerably, and it's going to be very subtle. It's not going to be so strong at that point, so you might want to carry a decant of this. It's very pricey. This is actually the most expensive fragrance in my collection. I'm really glad I got a deal on it because I have a lot of points with House of Matriarch, which I just think is an amazing feature that their website has. So all of the bottoms of these bottles have this hologram on it, which I think is awesome. I hope. Kazemi, number 2. Thank you, Christy, for that one. So my number 1, guys, spoiler alert, I did mention this in my top 4 niche fragrances for life. This was my winter pick. And I'm talking Slumber House Sedan. I really don't know how to pronounce it. I personally love this design, but I really do miss the older bottles. Now, this fragrance, the reason why I like it so much. So this is a fragrance that to me is rather simple, but also extremely likable. It's very, very unisex, and it's extremely potent when you spray this. Like, it's very much a rose dominant fragrance, and also it has a very nice wine-like accord, as well as some fruits. Now the fruits, people get different things. Some people get more strawberry or more cherry or apple. I generally get strawberry as the fruit in this fragrance, with apple as the secondary, and I would say cherry as the third fruit in there. That's, you know, the most subtle. But to me, this is not an elegant fragrance. I mean, if I can use 3 words to describe this fragrance, they would be playful and dangerously sexy. That's it. It's very unisex. I'm not really into super sweet fragrances, but this one I love, 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 love. There's a reason it's my number 1. I do think that this is the best rose fragrance in the world. And I know I said that about Kazimi, but I just meant that one in general, this one for my taste. All right, do with that what you will. So yeah, I personally prefer to wear that one in the winter, and I waited about 2 years to be able to get this fragrance because it was sold out. I honestly was crushed when I heard that it was sold out. So when it finally came back, I was delighted to get it, and got 2 of them. So that says enough about it. I probably have about 5 fragrances which I have backups of. Not too many at all. This one I don't consider it as a backup. I consider it as just damage prevention, because when it's gone, I'm gonna be sad, like straight up. There's a reason why sad is in the name, but definitely worth a try. Again, not for everyone, but it's very unisex. A lot of people will say that it leans more feminine, especially in the opening, especially in the air. You know, when you get closer, you will pick up more of the wine accord, but generally speaking, from a distance, it's gonna smell rather sweet and a bit feminine, you know, because you're mostly getting the rose and the fruity aspect pushing off. But I still think that this is one of the sexiest fragrances ever. All right, so thanks again so much, everyone. Thank you for your time. There's more to come. I'm also curious, what are your favorite rose fragrances? I'm sure you have some that I haven't tried yet. I've heard about some other really great ones, and I'm really looking forward to trying those. So if you liked the video, don't forget to like it. Feel free to share it if you think anyone can benefit from this. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I'll talk to you soon, all right? Peace out.